Welcome to Dr. Warwick's podcast channel. Warwick is a practicing cardiologist and author with a passion for improving care by helping patients understand their heart health through education. Warwick believes educated patients get the best health care. Discover and understand the latest approaches and technology in heart care and how this might apply to you or someone you love.
Hi, welcome to my podcast and videocast station, and today I'd like to talk about cholesterol and statins and their potential impact on the brain. Now, I get asked fairly regularly, how low can you send your cholesterol without it altering brain function? And I also get asked fairly regularly, do statins cause problems with mental function or cognition? Well, let me start with cholesterol levels and how low can we go. Well, there's not a lot of absolutes around this, but there are aspects that we can infer from. There have been some trials that have specifically looked at lowering LDL cholesterol and assessing cognitive function or mental function. With these new PCSK9 inhibitor agents, which get people's cholesterol levels down very low, there was a trial called the Ebbinghaus study where the research was directed at seeing what happened to brain function with very low cholesterol levels. Now, we're talking levels lower than what we normally see with our current treatment for people who've had a heart attack. Very low LDL cholesterol levels. Well, that Ebbinghaus study went for a number of years. They specifically set it up to look at function of the brain, and they were unable to demonstrate any cognitive impairment by lowering cholesterol levels to these really low levels that we might try and achieve these days for people who are very, very high risk. So there's a reassurance there. That was using an agent that's not a statin, but a PCSK9 inhibitor, one of the new monoclonal antibodies directed at a component of the receptor that's related to LDL absorption within the liver. We know if we look at newborn babies that their cholesterol levels are very low at time of birth. We're talking LDL cholesterol levels of around 50 to 70 milligrams per deciliter, or somewhere around 1.3 to 1.8 millimoles per litre. These are pretty low levels, and they're the sort of levels we'd generally be happy with if we wanted to treat someone who was at high risk of heart attack. Well, these levels are being measured in newborn babies at probably the most synthetic, productive, metabolically active period of their lives, the most active out of utero brain development time that any of us would ever have. And so at the time that we are looking to be most aware of our brain function, at the time of birth, our LDL cholesterol levels are really very low. That's not proof, but it is an inference, and it will tell us that the brain, at least the brain of an infant baby, works very well at those low levels. I think it gives us some reassurance. It's not proof, but it is some reassurance. The other thing is that we know through finding the PCSK9 inhibitors that there are families that have overactive PCSK9, and these people have too much cholesterol in their bloodstream, and these people run a high risk of coronary event. But there are people who have non-functioning PCSK9, which is a protein attached to the LDL receptor in the liver. These families who have PCSK9 not working have very, very low levels of cholesterol as well, and they appear to lead completely normal lives without any brain dysfunctional or abnormality, and they tend to live those long and protracted lives without incidence of coronary or vascular event. So a nice extra bit of information. Those three bits of data, those 3 bits of information about the Ebbinghaus trial, the cholesterol levels of a newborn, and the families with very low cholesterol, I think all provide some reassurance. Again, they're not absolute, but they are a really good starting point and allow us to be fairly reassured when we're looking to get people's cholesterol levels right down. The question then comes, do statins have a problem with cognitive function? And certainly there are case studies and patients will report mental fogging or issues when they take a tablet. Well, what's the data tell us? There was a trial called the Protective Study of Pravastatin in elderly at risk for vascular dementia, and they took some of the letters out of that and called it the PROSPER study. This was using pravastatin, one of the older cholesterol agents, at about 40 milligrams, nearly 6,000 patients, and they did 9 monthly cognitive testing over about a 3.5-year period. As expected, because it was an elderly group, the cognitive function across the board went down. There was a decline. However, there was no difference between the treatment and non-treatment groups. Another study, called the Heart Protection Study, using simvastatin at 40 milligrams, followed a large number of patients for about 3 to 5 years for follow-up and found no difference in cognitive outcome between the treatment and non-treatment groups. This provides some reassurance. There was another trial, not specifically set up for testing brain function, but they did look in on it. That trial was the justification for use of statins in primary prevention, an intervention trial evaluating rosuvastatin. Now, they took the letters out of that and called it the Jupiter trial. You may have heard of it. They looked at nearly 20,000 odd people, men more than women. They found no change in cognitive decline. There was a report of increased confusion on statins, and this actually led the FDA in America to add potential impact on thought processes as part of the side effects that could be seen with rosuvastatin. Not designed to look at brain function, not compelling in terms of cognitive decline, some reports of some slight clouding of thought. There have been some other smaller trials specifically looking at this question, about 12. Of those 12 trials, 9 of them showed no difference at all. One of them suggested a decline in function, in cognitive function for the group on cholesterol-lowering therapy, and 2 of those trials suggested a benefit. Well, we can't be absolute. There is suggestion from that data that there is no clear-cut evidence that taking statins and lowering cholesterol is a problem. I think it's really important we need to look at the individual because some people will respond differently to the crowd. And some people, for example, might report that their thinking is a bit clouded if they drink coffee. Some people might report their thinking is a bit clouded if they have too much sugary food. And some people may report mental clouding on a medication, including a cholesterol agent, so we need to be aware of that. There is a little bit of a recommendation that if there is a concern, that we use tablets, cholesterol tablets, that are less likely to be absorbed into the fatty tissue of the brain. So some cholesterol tablets are lipophilic, that means lipo, fat, philic, love to be absorbed into fat, and some medications are lipophobic, that means they don't get absorbed into fat. So, for example, atorvastatin, more likely to be absorbed into fat, potentially more likely to have an impact on the brain. Rosuvastatin tends to stay within water solution. It's lipophobic, doesn't get absorbed so much into fatty tissue, less likely to be implicated into brain tissue and perhaps a preferred agent. So we can also think about choosing the cholesterol lowering agent if someone does report an issue around cognitive ability or mental fog, etc. Hope that makes a bit of sense for you. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have any queries or questions, drop us a note at the usual place. Thank you for joining me. Till next time, I wish you the very best in health. Look after yourself, have a laugh, and please don't die from a heart attack. Goodbye.
You have been listening to another podcast from Dr. Warwick. Visit his website at drwarwickbishop.com for the latest news on heart disease. If you love this podcast, feel free to leave us a review.